Welcome to the Education Concierge Podcast. I am Benita G., your Education Concierge, and today we have an amazing guest on our podcast. Season 3. Hello, everyone. My name is Benita G. This is the Education Concierge Podcast. You already know that we are going to bring the, what's the word today? Y'all told me not to use gems. The jewelry. No, the jewels. Today we're going to bring the jewels, the gems, and the jewelry. I have someone that is unique in the education game, because that's actually the name of the company.
That's
the
right.
Education Game. He is co-founder and parent coach. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, we're gonna dive deep into that because I don't know what a parent coach is, but I suspect that some of you need one.
Oh.
And we are gonna help you today. I have nobody else but Mr. Matt Barnes. He is gonna introduce himself. But before we get started, I do want you to go get your pencil paper, your Trello, your iPad, your notepad, your sticky notes.
Yes.
And get ready to take notes. And then be ready to reach out to him and the Education Game, because this is the time right now in the midst of the pandemic, as we are trying to restructure, refocus, and have progressive education for our scholars, to have some stake in the game.
Amen to that. Preach.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes, please introduce yourself and tell us about your profession, your business, and your career.
You got it. Well, I will be brief because my profession is actually healthcare administration. I ran medical practices for a bunch of years, and actually that informed me of what I'm doing now. Because when you see a parent come into a hospital setting and they ask the doctor for help with their child, you see a parent who is now beginning to act as an advocate for their child. And so I now oftentimes will talk to parents and say, all right, think about if you were bringing your child into the hospital. Would you just let go and let the doctors do whatever they do? Or would you be asking questions? Would you be saying, hey, wait a second, I want to make sure I understand what it is you're going to do to my son or daughter. Wait, I don't understand that. You got to clarify. That is the role, my role as a parent coach, to remind parents that they are the head coach of their child's education. And that's how I do my work. Now, my profession is healthcare administration. I've also been on the board of 9 different educational institutions, from a Head Start system all the way up to a selective public university and everything in between, private, charter, hybrid. I've been on board of all these types of educational institutions. And so now I can see how to transition or how to support a parent who's going up through the educational system, and regardless of the model that they choose. So when I talk about being a parent coach, I am helping parents, 1, determine what it is that they want for their child, and then 2, how do you get it? That is the key challenge that most families face, and too often, they allow and let the school decide all those things for them, and that does not lead to the outcomes that they would generally hope for. So that's my work, and it's called the Education Game.
So y'all can't see my face because it's a podcast, y'all. But I'm sitting here, and if you know me and you know that you're a part of the Education Concierge family, y'all know I am excited about this. Like, happy. Like, if I could do a cartwheel right now in this room, I can do a cartwheel.
Go ahead and do it.
In the room, I would do that. Or like me being the good old Baptist child that I am. Y'all know when you just be running around the church in the spirit. That's where I am right now.
The spirit's got you, huh?
Oh my gosh, because this is what I wrote down while you were speaking and I was listening. This is real school choice.
Amen.
Because real school choice is parents are the first teachers. Mm-hmm. You are the advocates. And then we help facilitate and navigate. And at times as an educator in the classroom, my hands are tied to me informing parents in meetings at the school about what's the best practices for their child. But as an educator concierge, when they contact me, I go, girl, no.
You can be honest. You can be honest.
Foster mom, grandpa, auntie, uncle, no.
Right.
So my question to you first of all, thank you for what you're doing. There are not a lot of people who can say that I know I'm supposed to be advocating and navigating and helping parents. 1, because I am a parent. And y'all know I did my research. So he has children. He
Yes,
is a spouse and a dad and a provider and an educator. And even your own children have been in hybrid, online, public school, a regular traditional school setting. And you and your significant other have been able to say what's best for our own children.
Bingo. That's right.
And so now he's not just coming to the education game with no experience. They have their own children, and they've been able to see what's the best practices for our own children. How do we help them navigate through this system?
That's right.
And that is why we have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Sounds like we are on the same page about this stuff. This is good stuff.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So when I'm going through the education game, this is what I read. Our work introduces a new game that places learners at the center, replaces teachers with facilitators / coaches, and embraces 21st century tools. Now, if you're not an educator like I am, you could possibly be offended by what I just read. Why they need to replace us? Benita, didn't you tell them not to come for us? Boo-boo, that's not what I'm talking about.
No.
They're not coming for you. Real educators, we know it's February, it's March. I just want to facilitate my classes learning.
Yes.
That's all I want to do. Like even today, the kids, I could see the frustration on their face. I asked them a question. I was just sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
I counted, 8 minutes went by. And finally, my 8th grader started speaking up and answering the questions. And they were just looking at me like, so you're not gonna help us? You don't need my help.
Bingo.
Deep. You have it. And then it started coming out. And I said, let me write. Okay, I am now your secretary. And I started writing on the board what they needed, whatever they said. And then they were like, oh. Creating a brighter future is possible. Ami Academy Foundation's focus is to help the underprivileged, undereducated, disadvantaged, and disenfranchised communities in Sierra Leone. Ami Academy Foundation prepares youth and families to face the challenges of the 21st century through quality educational programs and by providing social and healthcare services. My name is Benita Gordon. I am a member and sit on the board of the Ami Academy Foundation. Ami Academy is a school that literally opened up in the middle of a pandemic, but had been in process to be open, built, and ready for students in 2020 to get them ready for the 21st century. This is the only school in the Waterloo section of Sierra Leone. Our mission right now by December 31st is to ensure that every one of the 108 scholars receive a scholarship. So we have started a campaign, every scholar, a scholarship. Now, I'm asking you to give $5, $10. We really need $200 per child. That's how much a scholarship would cost to cover the tuition for the year. I'm going to put in my show notes, but you can always visit AmiAcademyFoundation.org. It is a nonprofit organization started by Sierra Leone's mothers and daughters, doctors and fathers, husbands and wives, to give back. If ever we needed to remind ourselves that it takes a village, Ami Academy is that representation. And now you're ready to do your essay. Okay, thank you.
So that's the new model of learning, right? We all grew up, Benita, as kids who sat in a classroom and had a teacher teach us. But now, because of technology, because of how our society has changed, kids can find information. You all know this. It's actually, they can find too much information sometimes. So the role of the teacher and the role of the parent is shifting as a result of that. So what you're describing, Benita, is facilitating learning. Child, what are you curious about? How do you find the answers to that question? How do you solve the problem that you're facing? Those are the skills that a child in the 21st century must master. When we were coming up, now I'm 49 years old. When I was coming up, there was no Google, there was no YouTube. If you wanted to learn something, you had two choices. You had to ask the teacher, you had to go to Encyclopedia Britannica. Those are the only two choices. Maybe go to the library, right? Now you want to learn something, it's available. Challenge now is, how do I learn how to solve problems and then to do something of meaning with what I have learned? That requires somebody different in front of me. So yes, what you're talking about, you're working with your 8th graders, that is exactly a facilitative kind of relationship. You're helping them learn how to lead their learning. You're helping them how to ask the right questions. You're not giving them the answers. You're forcing them to come up with their own questions. That is how this world has shifted in the last 15, 20 years.
So what's the holdup? Because it has shifted. And I just yesterday had a conversation about this. Earlier today, I met with some more educators. We are trying to put something in place now to just, the shift is happening.
Yes.
It's like Noah is building the ark and it's already raining. And we're yelling to the people, come get in the ark with us. And
right.
They're looking at us going, it's not raining.
Right. Well, it's going to lighten up. It's going to lighten up. This rain is going to pass, right? Yeah. So the barriers are pretty dramatic, right? So when I work with parents, sounds like you do as well. When I talk to a parent, I ask them a question that you may want to ask your parents. First is, I draw kind of an example of two extremes. One extreme is the old model of education, the old model of school, really, where there is a adult-led environment where the kid doesn't get to make any decisions. The curriculum's defined for them. The pace of the curriculum is defined for them. And that's also set, by the way, by legislature. So folks in the state capitol who don't know your child at all, right? That's all set. And then there's grades and there's standardized tests. All that is kind of the traditional model of learning. On the other side of that continuum, on the other side of that example, though, is what is called learner-centered education, where the learner now becomes empowered to begin to learn on their own, which again is what Benita was talking about earlier. If you think about those two extremes, the question you parents need to ask yourself is, where is my child right now? In that old model where the adults are making all the decisions, where my child can't pursue the things that are of interest to them because they don't have the space? Or are your children on the other side of it, where the child is now saying, I have a real curiosity about X, Y, and Z, and now my facilitator or my teacher is going to help me learn how to learn about that thing. Where is your child? And when you define where your child is, I want to ask you the question, do you want to have them move further towards the learner-centered or stay where they are in the traditional? And if you want to move them towards the learner-centered, you as a parent now are going to have to take a completely different level of leadership, because the school is not built for that type of learning. So this is the barrier. The barrier is that the school was built for another time. The school was built for a time when there was no Google, there was no YouTube, there were no Facebook or Instagram. It was built when all the knowledge the teacher brought into the classroom, that day is gone. So if that is the model that you're currently in, I'm going to tell you, you were working in a model that worked 50 years ago. The more you move towards this learner-centered model is the more likely your child, as they move up into middle school, high school, they now take more leadership of their own learning. And then when they leave high school, they can learn whatever they need to learn because they know how to do it. That is really the aim of families and kids nowadays because of how things have shifted. Yeah. Am I preaching?
Yes. And I'm sitting here like, we're going to do a whole nother podcast.
Let's do it.
Because look, the old model, and I say this all the time, what we did before March 2020, we should never go back to again.
Oh, amen. Amen.
And I was sitting here listening and I'm writing down, and that's confirmation. That is understanding. Like I have students who say to me, I need to come back to school, but I only need to come back to school for math and science.
Wow. Yeah.
And then they say, and you know, this is the group I love. And they go, no disrespect, Miss Gordon. I don't need to come back into the classroom for your class because I understand and you do a good job online.
Yes.
And I was like, no disrespect taken.
Yes.
I am excited that even in the pandemic and us going home and going hybrid and virtual and dual modality and online, students are understanding how they learn, which is not something that they are afforded because, like you said, people are mandating to them every step of the way what they need to do, how they need to do it. And then they come in teachers' classes like mine. And because from pre-K to sixth grade, I teach 7th and 8th graders, they have been told, color in the box, you need a box. And then they get to my room and I have flexible seating.
Nice. What? Even that idea of flexible seating, that is a complete shift from what most people think about school. You have your assigned desk and you sit in there every day, regardless of what happens. But now you're saying this is wide open, right?
Right. And it's funny because I remember I got in trouble. The principal came in and he was like, well, where's your assigned seating for the first day of school? I said, oh, I don't do that. Who does that?
Right.
I said, let me tell you, 23 years in, do you know why I don't do assigned seating? I need to know who friends are friends with.
Interesting.
Let them come in and sit down.
Yes.
And then the kids do look at me crazy. They're like, where do we sit? Anywhere except for somebody's lap?
Right. So let me give you another barrier, Benita. So I have had so many conversations with parents who, when they hear what you're describing, they say, well, there's got to be something wrong with this, right? This is different than what I went through, right? So they end up coming away saying, somehow this is a problem. But in fact, what Benita is talking about is exactly the kind of freedom that we need our children to have. So here, think of this for a minute. So when I talk to parents about what do you want your child to be, like who's the child you want to give to the world? It always boils down, after sometimes 30 minutes or an hour of conversation, it boils down to this. They want their child to be a person of high character and to be a person that can handle themselves without any parent in the room, right? And so what Benita's talking about here is training a child to manage themselves so that the school is not the manager. It is the child that is the manager. And the sooner that we can build that skill set into a child, the sooner the parent can do what I'm doing right now with my kids, which is relaxing. I can just step back and say, you know what? It's your world. You handle your business. Come and ask me if you have questions, but you handle it, right? That is what every parent actually wants. The child who is completely able to manage themselves. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Benita.
Yes. I'm going to say. Because, and I was sitting here thinking, and I literally was thinking about, what did my parents do? Because my mom was a first grade teacher. I'm from a little rural country town.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think, and then I remembered I was in a talented and gifted program. And a talented and gifted program is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
When we would walk in and she would go, what do y'all want to study this week? And we went twice a week. We were pulled out of our classes all day. We went to a completely different building.
Yes.
And those of us who were in that little small group, because I grew up in tracking, we still track, let's be real. But I grew up in real tracking. I'm a 80s, 90s, I'm 44, so tracking was real and in effect. And we had color-coded kindergartens and all of that. And those everything I learned in talented and gifted classes, that's what I remember.
Yep.
We dissected not an eagle, the big bird, one of those. I'm a country girl. I remember a hawk. We dissected something. Do you know what? All she did was put on the screen what she wanted us to pull out and investigate, and pictures. And she put the tools on the table, and she said, "Okay," and walked away to the next group.
What? See? Yeah. So she was giving you the freedom to learn.
Figure it out.
And I will tell you, I got a similar story. In 5th grade, I was pulled out for a similar reason. And those are the only things I remember from 5th grade, because the teacher said, we're going to have a conversation in this class. We're not going to follow a script. We're not going to have a standardized test. We're going to have a conversation about this book or about this issue, right? That is creating in a child the ability to be an adult And that is the main thing that's missing in our young people today. We expect too little of them. Here, think about this for a second, Benita. 150 years ago, a 16-year-old girl would have at least a child, maybe two children, would be able to handle everything on a farm, every single thing, preparing the meals, keeping the house straight, but also all the stuff in the field. The 16 or 17-year-old man and they would call him a man back then, would have a homestead, would have a family, would have an entire tract of land to manage, would be hunting, would be handling everything. That is what we expected just a short 150 years ago. Now for a 16-year-old, we're surprised when a 16-year-old can handle some of their own responsibilities. They can. We have to teach them. We have to train them on how to handle their responsibilities. And the sooner that we do that, the sooner that child is going to be able to say no to social media because they are making the choice, not because you're telling them to. The sooner that child can say no to running off with some, knucklehead boy or knucklehead girl, because they're like, you know what, I got something better than I'm pursuing. That is what we as parents have to begin to train our kids in. And, I can go straight to Proverbs 22:6 about, or 22:7 about training a child in the way they should go, right? This is the training that has to be done by the parent, because it is not something that a school, again, is built for. So don't let me start. I will preach to you, girlfriend. Don't get me started.
And they already know we will have church in here at any given time.
That's right.
That's how we do. So, and I was sitting here thinking, and I remember one of the things my parents said to each of us. I have an older sister. Yeah. We are all 5 years apart. And then we have a younger brother. Mm-hmm. And as we got ready to go away to college, or all of us went away to college. We got ready to go away to college, or just us entering driving teenage years.
Yeah.
They set us down and they said, look, we trust everything we've put in you.
Oh, wow. I'm going to write that down.
Are you going to make a mistake? Yes. But we trust how we've raised you. We trust that we put you in the church. We trust that you have a relationship. We trust your friends. You've done a great job making friends. We trust you. And we know that if there's a situation, and there we did have parents like that. My parents are like, look, if you're in a situation, you need to call us. And back then you had to get a house phone. It's like,
right. There were no cell phones.
If you're going to be late, get a friend to call us. You need to call us. We got you. And it was one of those things that's something that has stuck with me. I say it to my nieces and nephews. Look, I trust how we raised you. I trust what we poured in you to come out when it's necessary. You need it. And if you're not sure, you pick up the phone and you call me and you let me know. So then that goes back to parents being advocates. But I'm going to push back a little bit.
Please.
Because I've been in education for 23 years. I've taught in Title I schools. I've taught in Catholic schools. I've taught overseas in schools. Yep. And I've always gotten this, and I'm middle school. And somewhere in there, so it's not even about economics. It's not about religion. It's about just having a middle schooler in your house.
Yep.
I've gotten parents to look at me in my face and say, I don't know what to do with them. And so when you have a parent who is reaching out to you because they literally are like, they're not motivated. I've tried this, I've tried that. Give me like the top 3 things. Because I feel like some parents are at that point now. We're in the pandemic. We're actually coming up on a year.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Going to school, fighting to school, coming home, teachers here, I'm over there. I went home, 11 of my teachers, we all went home for quarantine for 14 days.
Wow.
60 kids went home.
Oh, wow.
So even the ones that were in class with me, we're all at home. We're back like we were back in March 2020, online navigating. And those kids are like, and I'm like, look, take a breath. I'm going to put that out there and I'm going to be honest. I didn't make them kids stay in class the whole 90 minutes because
smart.
I'm going crazy. They're going crazy. They're not used. They've been in school since October. So these are my kids that have been coming in.
Yes.
My kids online, they were like, what you doing at home? It was like, long story to tell you.
Yes.
But even those parents, my parents were on Class Dojo texting me. They were on my Google Voice texting me. They were like, Ms. Gord.
Yes.
We had a routine. What do you say to those parents now?
Yes. So 2 things. One, I have a service. It is a free service that folks can contact me. They can contact me. We'll have a one-on-one conversation because a lot of the conversations I have, it really is about your individual circumstance. So that's on my website at theeducationgame.com/contact. There's a button you can press, schedule a one-on-one with me. We'll sit and have a conversation about it. But secondly to that, for a parent who is at their wit's end or the child is coming unglued, again, Benita said something else that was very wise. She said that she doesn't require the child to be on the screen for 90 minutes. Y'all, you have to understand that learning at home is not school at home, right? So when a child is in a classroom, 90 minutes can go by fairly quickly. The kids are interacting with others, interacting with the teacher, they're doing projects, any number of things that could be going on. When the child is at home, this is a completely different environment. This is learning at home. And learning at home, you can get really focused on those things that you want the child to learn. Excuse me for that. For those few things that you want your child to learn, that can happen. It can happen very quickly, but it does not happen. It does not require 90 minutes, essentially. So here is what I tell the parents when they are starting to see their kids starting to kind of lose themselves, the spark of curiosity and learning starts to dim. I say to those parents, start with a conversation with the teacher. And you say to the teacher, listen, this is what I'm seeing in my child. And I know my child because this is my flesh and blood. I know them better than anybody else in the world. I am seeing my child losing interest in learning. And I'm concerned about it, super concerned. So now I want to have a negotiation with you, teacher, about what are the essential elements that I need this child to learn while at home. And everything else, I need us to have an agreement that we're going to push it off. We're going to ignore the things that are non-essentials because we're going to focus on a less but better learning strategy. Now, for some parents, they will say, well, if my child is not occupied 7 hours a day, what is he going to be doing? Or what is she going to be doing? Well, there's actually a lot of things that a child can do that has nothing to do with traditional learning, but that can actually be incredibly important for a child to learn about. So one, for me, I put some pretty tight rules about online access. So I'm pretty strict about that sort of thing because I'm paying the bill. And if I'm paying the bill, then I get to make the rules, right? That's how I do it. Cell phone, computer, internet, I make the rules. I pay the bills, I get to make the rules. So I make rules about access and how often they can access. But I also say that they can do other things as much as they would like. They can go to the park. They can read with their sibling. They can make dinner. And frankly, that's some of the other things I actually say that's part of now the deal. You're not in school. Here's the minimum learning that you need to do because your teacher has said, here's the essentials. We're going to get that done. And then you're going to help with dinner, right? Then you're going to help clean up the house. Then you're going to help do these other things around the house that you normally don't have time to do, but are essential learning elements, right? Learning how to cook is an essential, it's a financial decision, right? Every time you go to a restaurant, you're spending 4, 5, 6 times the amount of money that you could spend at home making it yourself, right? These are skills that are very important, but the school doesn't typically value them, right? So for the parent who's struggling with this deal, 1, negotiate with the teacher to reduce the workload. 2, say to the child, okay, we're going to have a different relationship now. I'm going to be your head coach. And as a head coach, I don't just let you just roll out and do what you want to do. I have some rules. And at home, we're going to have practice. And when we have practice, that means there's certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. One of the things you can do is you can cook, you can prepare meals. One of the things you can't do is you can't sit on the internet all day long, right? Those are some of the rules that I set up as a parent and coach parents to do the same. We as parents, if we do not take more leadership in our child's learning, then we can't complain when our child at 13, 14, 16, 18 years old goes off the tracks. We can't look to the school to handle this. We can't say, teacher, it's your job. It is our job, our God-given responsibility to shepherd our children. And this is what I'm talking about. Now, I definitely am preaching.
That's okay. And I want to say this. I want to say this because I've had conversations with people and it's made me mad. And I'm gonna say this again because I want people to understand.
Hear me.
In 23 years of teaching, I literally can tell you that I've only met 3 parents who do not care about their child's education. And that ended up being some underlying issues and concerns that were out of my professional educational realm.
Yes, mental stuff going on.
Yes, parents.
Yes.
My daddy did not know trigonometry. I didn't think about the fact that my daddy did know trigonometry until I was a freshman in college. I had already graduated and I'm at Hampton University in my dorm room thinking, this man would tell me to bring my trigonometry homework to him. He would look over it.
Yes.
And go back and look at number 3 and number 8. So now I'm back in my room going, oh my God, like number 3 and number 8. It took me until 2 years almost later. And I was sitting there and I'm talking to my sister. She was like, yeah, you know, our dad got drafted. He went to Vietnam. Then he came back, he went to community school. Then he opened, you know, a business company. And I was like, so he ain't even had trigonometry. She said, girl, I don't even think they had trigonometry back.
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah.
Parents, even if you don't know and don't understand, the rules are in place.
Yes.
The expectation is set. And that's what it was. The rule was in place and the expectation was set.
Yes.
And I remember, like now he jokes and laughs because he's like, yeah, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what was. I don't know. There's a bunch of numbers and X's and Y's. And I was sitting there looking at him like, and then the second thing you said is something we started saying in the beginning, and I need to make sure I circle back around. The skills and the skills and life lessons that we don't teach in school, this is the time to teach them.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Cooking,
it is.
Cleaning, communication, getting along with siblings, family orientation, understanding how to pay bills, how to get out of debt, how to set a budget.
Being a citizen, talking about the news, talking about what's going on in politics. Yes.
DIY, whatever your religion is, embedding that into your children.
That's right.
All of that, because I can't do that. I mean, the argument now is I don't even believe we should graduate students unless they take a financial, I call it financial fitness. A financial fitness or understanding class and just covering the basics. I don't even know how deep we need to go, but I think we need to go deep. But
we need to go deep.
But these are the things that this is what I appreciate you bringing back into the discussion, because I think we got away from it because we've been listening to the outsiders, but we've been doing this. Like the pandemic just exposed that we need to do more of it, but we've been doing it. So with 2 more questions, we're gonna wrap up. I'm looking at the time. You gave me the 3 takeaways. Thank you. So this is the question I always ask. How does this enhance or disrupt or build a bridge for stakeholders in education? And why do you think that you are a parent coach?
Well, I'm a parent coach because I'll start with that question. I'm a parent coach because hundreds of parents have coached me. I left my job. So I have a black boy at home. And when he was born, I had this realization that, oh no, I've got a black boy at home. I was nervous. I was afraid. And so I ended up deciding to leave a very well-paying job because I was committed to, if I was going to make an error, I was going to err on the side of too much intentionality on my child. Because black boy, you all know, raising a black boy is not something that's easy to do in our society. He's now 18 and he is just killing it. This brother is just solid, full scholarship at University of Virginia.
Oh, yay! I'm a UVA Cavaliers. Let's go. Okay.
Yep. And solid guy, thinking about studying physics. He's just really well prepared. But how did he get there? Because hundreds of parents coached me. And I would go to them and say, look, I like how your son or your daughter operates. What did you do? And I would ask that question every time I met a young person who was doing well. I'd find their parents, say, tell me what you did, because I'm trying to do the same thing with my kid. And the pieces of it were the things that I now teach. It's about having a vision for your child, like being really clear, like crystal clear about who you want to give to the world, who's the child you want to give to the world. Then secondly, looking really diligently at what comes out of the schools in your area. And what you will see is there's a gap between what you're hoping for and what is actually coming out. And if you see that gap, then that means you, parent, have to make a choice. Now that we talked about school choice a minute ago, this is the school choice that I advocate for. You have to choose whether you're going to fill that gap or whether you're going to ignore it. And it's a hard choice. But if you choose to ignore it, then you are essentially saying, I'm going to now watch my son or daughter slide into a pattern of loss that I've seen, and you all have seen 100 times, 1,000 times maybe. But if you say, I'm going to now fill that gap and I'm going to make sure my child is ready, now you start making some different choices. Now, once you have made that choice, the next one is, I call it finding your assistant coaches. So when I talk about the education game, I say, let's just pretend that education is a game like football, and you are the head coach. You have to have an assistant coaching staff, because raising a child it's a team sport, right? So who are the assistant coaches? Grandmama, the neighbor, uncle, cousin, somebody who can support your child's learning outside of school. Your teacher is actually an assistant coach. You look to the teacher to support your vision, not the other way around. You have a vision for your child and you're saying to the teacher, here's what I need to help my child achieve the vision that I have set for my child. You're not looking for the school to set the vision. So assistant coach. Then you also need to, there's some patterns of learning that need to happen in your home. And I call it starting a streak. So as an example of a streak, every day over lunch or over dinner, we're going to listen to a book on tape and we're going to talk about it. Or every day before dinner, we're going to read one page out of a book and talk about it. These are habits that if you can get those habits set, now the child realizes this is normal behavior in our house. We always read before dinner. We always listen to a book during dinner. We don't have the TV on during dinner, right? These are habits that once you start to build these habits, you are now investing in your child and you're investing in your grandchildren and you're investing in your great-grandchildren. That is when we think about a vision, we're thinking about multiple generations deep, y'all. Your mom, Benita, was a teacher. My mom was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. My great-grandmother was a teacher. They had a vision about long-term investment in their child, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here. So why is my work important now? It's because like no other time in the last 50, maybe 100 years, have we realized that education is all broken up. And now we as parents either have to decide we're going to now engage or we're going to allow our child to slip into the patterns of failure that we have seen in so many kids, particularly in the Black community. And I can't tolerate that, but I'm going to leave every parent to make that choice for themselves because that's not my child. I'm just here to help if you want it.
I almost need to end right here, but I'm not ready. One last.
I'll be here all night.
That is, y'all.
I'll be here all night.
TEC podcast family. Y'all know what I say. Like the first time they come, they're a guest. Second and third time, you're going to have to go into the kitchen and make your own sandwich.
That's right. We're family.
Has already gone into the kitchen and made a sandwich. And this is what I'm hearing. And I want those of you who are listening, who are parents, aunties, godparents, because I'm an auntie, I'm a godparent, and trust and believe I'll be all up in their business.
Yes.
About school and relationships and college and what's the next step. If we really stop and think, especially my friends and how we were raised, this is just going back to how we were raised.
Absolutely.
And if we stop and think, and you said something significant, because I remember I said to my students the other day, I was like, yeah, I said, because we would sit down as a family and eat dinner. Mm-hmm. And they looked at me like, and I said, okay, but y'all do that before COVID. Raise your hand if y'all always went over abuelas, tias, tios, grandma, somebody's house for Sunday.
Right.
Even if you didn't go to church, y'all still go over there for dinner. And they go, yeah. And I said, it's the same thing. I said, we still did that. And it was all of the cousins. They were like, yeah. And you sit down and everybody has their spot and you listen and you learn and you watch and you mimic and you imitate.
Yes.
And I said, and you don't even know that, but it becomes a part of your being. Because now when you become your own person, you have your own family, you have your own friends, Sunday dinners or Saturday gatherings are going to be built into you already.
That's exactly.
And so that's what I hear you saying. It's already, if you build it, they will come.
Well said. That's exactly it.
They will come. So then I'm going to wrap up here. This is the question we ask everyone. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
This is going to be good. I am the education concierge because a group of my friends said to me one day, girl, we can call you about anything about education and you're going to figure it out, find it, tell us, fly out here Help us do it, make it happen. And I was like, y'all are crazy and you just do an extra. And then I thought about it. So I decided to do a company because that's what a concierge is. Back in the day, you would go to the hotel and you would check in, you and your wife, no kids, it's your anniversary, you're celebrating. And so my question to you is, if that happens and when that happens, where would you want to go? Or what play did you want tickets to? What 5-star restaurant would you want to go to? And tell me why.
Yes. Okay. I would want to go to a park and to sit on a blanket in the park with my wife, because one thing I have learned is there are so many lies that we are taught in terms of what success is. Success is not how much money you make. And some people hear that, but they don't truly believe it. It's true. It doesn't matter how much money you make. What matters is the amount of time and the investment in the people that matter most to you. So ask yourself the question, who are the 5 or 6, maybe 10 people who matter the most to me? The only 10 people who I want at my funeral. Everybody else is kind of gravy. But who are those 10 people? Now, if you were investing in those 10 people, you don't need to go to a fancy 5-star restaurant. You could sit on a blanket in a park with a bottle of wine and a block of cheese and a piece of bread, and you be happy as a clam, right? That is the life that I'm trying to pair. Not only does that also force me to focus on the people in front of me, but it also makes life a lot cheaper. And in this environment, when a disruption could get people thrown out of work in a moment, your investments could evaporate in a week. We need to live smart. And what part of living smart is living well beneath your means. So yes, you could spend $100 at a restaurant, but I can promise you that you'll probably have a much more interesting conversation if you're on a blanket in a park spending $15 with wine and cheese and bread bought from Kroger or the local grocery store. So that's how.
Down here, our grocery store is Publix.
Oh, Publix, yeah.
Oh my goodness,
that's how I roll.
I appreciate that. And I always ask, and then you actually broke it down for us even better. And I always ask because that gives us insight into our guests. And some of our guests have said, I will want to go back to this restaurant, or I will want to go to this certain place that I never got to. And then they don't tell us why. And then we break it down a little bit more, but you already let us know.
That's why.
I want simple. I want to focus on the person that's in front of me. I want us to, and I love it. I wrote it down. I want us to live smart.
Just live smart. Yep. Be strategic.
I have never heard that, but that's stolen. I just stole that.
No problem.
I will put who said it first.
No problem.
I'm going to take that. And then this is how I always close out my podcast. I know people don't think I'm saved, but I am. And if you don't know me, just whatever. But I am a good old country Baptist girl. And when we would have the guest preacher on, he had the opportunity. You can't open the doors of the church unless we talked about that before. But what you can do is close the church service out. And you can close it out any way you want to. I've had guests who have read from their book. They have read a poem. I've had guests who said, thank you, good night. So however you feel led to close out the Education Concierge podcast episode with Mr. Matt Barnes, co-founder and parent coach of the Education Game, please do so.
I will do so, and I'll do it with a prayer. Father, thank you for the opportunity to share. Thank you for all that you have taught me through so many different angels that you put in my path. Father, may some of what has been shared bless those who are listening. And for the parents of Black boys and brown boys, I lift a special prayer up, because those populations have the most challenge in recent years, Lord. And if there's a way that I can help support them, Father, please make that happen. We bless our parents who are the leaders of our homes and our societies and our world. And we thank you for all this in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. What? That's a first. And I appreciate.
You asked me to close it out. That's how I'm going to close it out.
I appreciate y'all. Look.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Tell us how we can connect with you.
Sure.
I know they're going to be reaching out.
Sure. You can go to theeducationgame.com/contact, and that's the way to get there's a Calendly link. You can press a button and get scheduled onto my calendar for a conversation. help yourself. It's a free service, and happy to talk if folks need some help.
So I don't know about that free part, but I do think y'all need to make a donation. Don't play with me. I told y'all in 2021 we are going to pay for services for those that we need. So I know somewhere there's a way we can make a donation.
There is a way.
I know there's a tip for helping. So make sure that you do that. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
There's going to be a part 2, y'all.
Let me know. Happy to do it.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too. God bless you.
This episode is brought to you by Photography by Sherelle. Photography by Sherelle, they tell a story frame by frame. Do you have a new product? Are you trying to get more on your social media, more from your social media? Do you feel like your pictures are just not top quality? This is when you call Photography by Sherelle. They specialize in product photography, branding consultation, social media marketing, social media managing, and social media consultation. Lifestyle photography. So they have it all. Great shop, great people, amazing photography. If you're a new chef and you're trying to get your pictures on, call her in. She takes amazing food pictures. One more time, Photography by Sherelle. She can be found on Instagram and Facebook. Coming soon, a website where you can automatically sign up, get your package, and then she gets to work. Not worried about it. COVID, you can't get to her. No worries. If you have a product that you can put in the mail it to her. She takes the pictures. They are amazing. Sends them back. She can send you the product back, or she can keep it and then do more pictures later on. Reach out to Photography by Sherelle for all your product and branding needs.